Welcome back, everybody. It is 11:37. This is the agenda on SABC News. Thank you so much for joining us. We go back to the social dialogue between Gauteng Premier David Makhura and the various civic organizations attending it, with the mission of finding solutions about some of the, looting and the violence that has been ongoing in Gauteng and KwaZulu-Natal. Let's take you back now.
To use rubber bullets. Is this fair? It makes me believe that wrongdoers have more rights in our country than law-abiding citizens. The local councillor did not come out and stand with her community. She rather chose to communicate with us through WhatsApp. Is that how councillors are groomed? I'm in a similar situation. I have chosen to follow the path of priesthood. While I may be concerned about my safety regarding doing COVID funerals, it is my duty to serve. Our community stood together, and kudos to the CPF, patrollers, and community who have come out in numbers to protect our community. Sadly, our police service cannot protect our community. They cannot protect innocent widows who are at home. They cannot protect child-headed households. They cannot protect single moms with small kids. Police cannot control the perpetrators, yet they had the audacity of telling us what to do. The result of this looting has left us feeling uncertain. On Tuesday, I needed some basic essentials. Shops were closed, and the ones that were open took me in and shut the door behind me out of fear. We also have impersonators now claiming to be CPF and setting up roadblocks. When you phone the local SABC, they tell you that they don't have a van. What's going to happen to our community? While I hear Mr. Makhura about poverty and unemployment, I don't believe actions are justified. Many people are in the same situation. While focus is given to youth for employment, attention for seniors, what about us, unemployed middle-aged people? I simply do not resort to such measures simply because I respect my country. I'd like to leave the Premier with the following. I believe we need to build a patriotic country. If you consider yourself a patriotic citizen, you cannot destroy your land. The intention of getting rid of Indians at the cost of destroying our infrastructure does not make you patriotic. Second point, we are faced with a moral degenerative society. What is Mr. Makhura going to do about this? Thirdly, government has been dragging its feet on the matter of land invasion for Lenasia South. Given what has happened to the citizens of Lenasia South, I'd like to know what is government going to do about it. The Lenasia crematorium, for example, has not had water because of land invaders. What is Mr. Makhura going to do about this?
Thanks, Lucy.
Thank you.
Thanks, Lucy. Wonderful. The passion, the integrity, the commitment, I think is felt by everybody here. In the same vein that, and we want to now just move to the last two inputs, the short inputs here on people who have been doing incredible work to respond to this crisis. I suppose many people have seen Akim Zulu on TV, the Diepsloot Residents Association. Akim, in 2 minutes, just talk to us about the response of the Residents Association and what has worked for that association at this point in time. Over to you. Akim? Okay. We seem to be having a problem with Akim. Whilst we sort out the issues with Akim, can I ask Mbali and Globo, who has created this wonderful volunteer... Okay, yes, Akim. Akim, over to you. Unmute. Unmute. Unmute, Akim. Can Akim be unmuted, please? Okay, we can hear you now. Okay, this is not working. Delani, Zakira, can we move on to Mbali? We can't seem to hear Akim at all. If we can, we'll come back to you. Mbali has created the Rebuild SA volunteers group. Huge support for it. Mbali, in a few minutes, just talk to us about why you did this, what the response is, and how people can connect with you. Thank you. Over to you.
Thank you so much. I hope you can hear me. Thank you for the awesome opportunity to engage with you all. As mentioned, my name is Mbali Ndlovu. I created a community which I didn't think would be so big, of people who wanted to volunteer to help one another in this time of looting. It started out as an initiative for volunteers to come together and help reach the affected communities. We have just under 60,000 volunteers, contributors, people who want to help. We also have a series of nationwide WhatsApp groups, particularly in the affected areas from all sorts of regions of KwaZulu-Natal, also here in Gauteng, from Alex to Tembisa to Sedibeng, to as many places as we can access. At the moment, what we have been doing is coordinating all of the volunteers. We've got databases of them, what capacity they can help, what resources they're able to allocate. Some of them can donate hands to clean. Some of them can donate money for cleaning supplies. Some of them wish to help businesses rebuild from the bottom up. And we've also been dealing with local community leaders in certain regions, as well as the allocated CFPs. In order to really assess what is going on. I think the rebuilding process, while we initially started out to just help clean the mess, upon assessment, upon engaging with the local community, with as many people as we could and as we can, we realized that there's a deeper issue. I'm not going to comment on the political journey that has brought us to here. I think politics can be very disruptive when it comes to getting things simply done. And just by virtue of the number of people in this community, including yourself, Mr. Ahmed, who just get up and do the work and get it done. So leading and requiring government to do X, Y, and Z, I think, and politics to do this and that, I think we'll wait forever. And I commend the community that is a part of my community. I commend everybody that's really gone out of their way to just help one another to be to get back to some kind of normal. I would like to comment as well quickly, with regards to, I think someone mentioned that we should open a fund for certain things. We've been able to fundraise several amounts of money that we are coordinating with, we're coordinating the distribution of the money, the resources with NGOs that have been doing the work. According to some of our local CFPs and other community leaders, I'll speak, for example, in Soweto, they've got really awesome programs that ended up running out of funds or running out of infrastructural support, or running out of just the means to complete those. And programs like that, an example I can give you is Sports Against Crimes, where they were taking young people who come from a bit of tumultuous backgrounds and putting them through an independent schooling program. Some of these take place within police stations or community centers or a school in the back somewhere. Of course, due to COVID, they've had to restrict that, but they do have multiple programs available and things that they have already started that just need a bit of help. So when it comes to the how do we mend, how do we fix, how do we that, I think when it comes to original thinking and coming up with something, that's great, but I think there already are infrastructures, ideas, working case studies, and things that may still be running or may have run out of steam that we can look at to empower these communities. So far as well, we've also we've had some really incredible donors and sponsors who have come forward. Some of them have access to planes, so we've been flying down supplies to inaccessible regions of KZN. We do have obviously the cleanups, which is what I call the simpler part or the easier part, because the issues are so deep rooted. And really the challenge for me at the moment is the sea of disinformation. As mentioned, I must be in about 80 different WhatsApp groups for the different regions, a lot of panic voice notes and a lot of bogus links. So someone will share a link saying, this company or this government department wants to give relief funds, and it's a bit.ly link. So what can we do as well to that's where disinformation and chaos also perpetuates and expands. So I would love to hear what we can do about that from a management place. But all in all, it is really incredible to see that, while politics is doing their thing, and I appreciate these types of conversations because it allows us to take a deeper and in-depth understanding of what's going on. I really enjoyed the beginning part of the conversation. I was taking some notes. But while the deliberations and the plannings and all of this and that are happening, people and societies and communities, with or without established community leaders, are just getting together and getting the work done. So how do we embrace these people that are putting their work together? I would also like to note as well, in terms of the volunteer crews, we've been able to kind of create a hub of others as well as doing the work ourselves. But we did have an incident where it was a very strange incident where one of our volunteers was waiting outside a mall in Soweto for our transport to collect her, and she ended up being arrested for disruption, intrusion and something else, and we managed to bail her out the next day. But how can we better empower our policing systems? How can we better formalize something? We do deal with the CFPs and the CPF, and the infrastructural leaders of that. But what can we do to prevent a situation where the volunteers also are getting put into the crossfire? From a security aspect as well, I understand that during the day, most of these places are okay, but it's at night that a lot of instability tends to rise. So what can we do to ensure that that the night shift of South Africa in these affected areas and in potentially other affected areas can be safe? Also, with something else that Mr. Frank had said in the beginning, which is true, is that the government was not ready. Nobody really essentially was ready for the chaos that unfolded. And sorry, it's just my last point, that nobody was ready for this, the chaos that unfolded. However, I think, accidents don't happen by mistake. They're often caused. I think there was a buildup of certain things. There's another group of youths in the Free State who are already reaching out to our organization with frustrations about water shortages. They're blaming the government. They're calling it the looting of funds by the government. And that is something that's going to brew. So how do we, mend the situations now? How do we deal with all of this? How do we empower all the stakeholders in this infrastructure? But also, how do we see the red flags and what do we do about them? Because this type of situation may happen again in a different region. Right now, KZN and Gauteng are the most affected, but this doesn't mean that, and Cape Town now with the taxi violence and the taxi situations, there's just a lot going on and we see the red flags, but what can we do in order to think ahead and plan ahead and just figure that out? Thank you so much.
No, thank you. I suppose I echo the views of many here who possibly are wishing that you would have been sitting in one of the offices at Union Buildings coordinating the response of this country. Sharp, incisive, on the ground, hope-giving, and practical, as well as all embracing in terms of harnessing the goodwill that is out there. A huge thanks in Bali. And Klankla Lux was supposed to be joining us. He had to leave to rush back to Maponya for whatever issues there are. But he certainly was one of the people that we had asked to speak. We want to just round off this session before we take all of the questions that have been posed by yourselves. They have been packaged. They will be put up on screen. And we're going to ask the Premier to respond and respond very pointedly to the issues that have been raised, as well as pointing out some of the more practical steps that many are asking for in terms of the way forward. Sheila Sisulu doesn't need any introduction. Sheila, just in terms of having listened to all of this, having read some of the comments, your reflections on what you've heard and what you think also needs to be done. In about 4 to 5 minutes, over to you.
Okay, thank you very much. I'll even be briefer than that. There's a saying or a quote that is often attributed to Einstein, which goes something like, if you keep doing the same thing and hoping for a different outcome, that's a sign of insanity. I will not say who is insane from amongst ourselves. However, it feels like one has heard, especially with due respect for the Premier, from government, the same old record. And I think it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate. Reverend Chikane talked about the Defend Our Democracy, why it started, when it started, what it has done. Big up to the young people, especially Kaya and the young woman, sorry, I'll remember her name just now. I mean, they had such clarity of mind, presence of where and what was happening. I would like to say to the Premier and government in general, you were caught napping. Nothing you can say now is going to make that go away. However, having said that, it's important, I think, Premier, that government unties its hands. You have tied yourselves up in knots with your systems. When sewage is running in the streets of Kliptown, the national office will say it's a provincial issue. Province will say it's a local issue. These responses are insane, I have to say, because they are the same ones every time there is a problem. And that problem is that government has tied itself in systems and policies that...
Well, that's a very important dialogue going on there between civic organizations and Gauteng Premier David Makhura about finding solutions with regards to the aftermath of the looting and the devastation of property in the past few days. And before we wrap the show, let's now take a look at what the EFF